Hello and welcome back to the second part of Gods of Winter, our first set of a 3-set block based off of Theros block, this one of course being based off of Theros Beyond Death. Today we will be going through the white cards. Last time we started with white, we're still in white, but I'm excited to see as the cards come together color by color so we can see the internal synergies of each color faction. Are they going to be specific factions that really come together? Probably not, but can we weave a narrative anyway? You bet we can. So, I'm excited to see what the AI has in store for us today. If you're just joining us, I'm DarcyBits, and this is Urza's Artificial Intelligence, a site that anyone can use to make AI-generated magic cards. For this set, we put in the mana costs and the card types from Theros Beyond Death, but everything else, the AI is coming up with itself. If you are not new to the channel, I'd really appreciate it if you considered subscribing. I don't usually ask for this sort of thing. I don't like it, but there's a minimum subscribers required to get partnered on YouTube, and that would be cool. That would be cool. Drop me a like. Anyway. One more thing before we get started, I should say, next week, we are planning to start having 3 videos a week. So, get ready for that. I'm excited to start putting my all into these videos, really having a good time with them. People seem to be enjoying them, and I want to be able to put that content out there. So, with all that out of the way, we're starting off kind of in the middle of the last session because one of our cards did not render properly. This is something that happens occasionally. A card will show up and it never finishes rendering. It just kind of gets stuck in generation limbo and doesn't come together. So unfortunately, our Nissa Ravane card, which honestly was maybe a little bit too saucy for our set anyway, is no more, and we're going to have to generate that card again. So let's get started. That card was interesting because following it, we started seeing things that would really benefit from untapping. But in this case, we have Tezzeret the Freeblade, a 4-mana, 4-loyalty legendary planeswalker Tezzeret. They have a +2, target creature you control fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Each deals damage equal to its power to the other. Great. And -2, create 2 2/2 white knight creature tokens with vigilance. That seems pretty strong. Just being able to protect itself by creating a couple of tokens. Also, like a decent number. If this was just 4 mana to make 2 2/2 white knights with vigilance, that's not a bad rate on its own, but it can do that twice, or it can, +2 to continuously do this every other turn. Also, just the target removal of fighting is often very powerful. It's not really a green color identity thing. Sorry. It's not really a white colored anything, it's more green, but honestly, it makes sense as a white thing. I feel like it should be used in white more often. Having these, soldiers that are ready to do battle. Fights make sense to me. But all in all, the card comes together. I think we got it. Don't be mistaken is the flavor text. So we're going to have to skim through these because these are the other cards that were generated last time we did this. So let's just quickly move through there. There we go. We're back to the top. Okay. So, a little bit of a detour there. Here we are to start proper in the actual new cards. 2 mana, Slay the Nightmare, sorcery. You gain 1 life for each creature card in your graveyard. Weird effect. Just straight up mana, gain life, tend to be kind of weak if they don't have something else attached to them. Especially at sorcery speed like this, seems a bit bland. Also a weird name. Slay the Nightmare implies that you're, attacking something. As Vraska grew, her former torturers shrank, and one by one they disappeared into the mist of their shared past. I'm not super excited with this card, but it seems like something that could have been printed, and so I think it gets a pass. Speaking of which, we should probably discuss what counts as a reroll. Often I will try to not reroll cards, but If something doesn't have any playability at all, or like would never be printed because it was too boring, I will often get rid of something. If something is bad but interesting, I might keep it. It's less of an exact science than I would like, but that's okay. Let's call it art instead. Storm Elemental is a 5-mana 4/4 elemental. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 3/1 white elemental creature token. That's rad. Cool. Love that. And also tap. The next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. Wow. Okay, cool. So it's 5 mana for a 4/4. If you can untap with it, you get an additional 3/1. And you can tap it to have it block damage to face. This is a cool card. I like this card a lot. It does seem like it's probably a bit too slow to actually be good in most situations, but I'm sure a deck could make it good if you cheat it out or give it haste or something cool like that. Yeah, this card's cool. I like it. It is storm time. It is brawl time. And it is time to hurl the bodies of the last from the roost. Lovely. Flanking Renewal. A single white mana for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature has protection from black, from blue, from red, and from green. So everything but white. That's fun, actually. I'm actually kind of into that. For 1 mana, give something pro, every color except white is super interesting. A ward against evil. Oh, that's so flavorful, right? Like, the only thing you have to protect from them is not white, right? Everything else is evil. But white could never be. Oh, that's so good. What a stupid paladin mentality. I love it. Winter's Vengeance is a 4-mana sorcery. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. Great. You may pay white rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Wait, so it's just white? Winter's Vengeance deals 4 damage to target creature. Okay, the templating here is a bit weird, right? Like, the order of things. It does a thing, then it tells you its alternate mana cost, then it does another thing, but let's ignore that for the time being. So this is 2 mana to give your entire board +2/+1 and deal 4 damage to target creature. Am I okay with this? I wish the alternate cost was relevant. That's my only problem with this card, right? Is that if this was like, you may sacrifice a land, I'd be like, oh, that's legitimate, like, which one do I want to pay? But in this case, it's 2 mana. Like, it's just straight up 2 mana. Which also feels like it is invalidating the premise, right? The premise is, it's gonna make a 4 mana value sorcery. And instead it just didn't, right? It made a 2/1 instead. Obviously the mana value is still 4 for effects that care about that, but yeah, I'm gonna reroll this one, unfortunately. The Warm Glow of Soul's Firelighting. What? The warm glow of Soul's fires lighting the winter skies. Interesting card, and that is just very powerful. Bitter Bloom Marsh. Is that a real card? That sounds really familiar. 4 mana sorcery, create a 2/2 white wolf creature token. I doubt that's playable, right? If this was instant speed, that could maybe be playable, but as a sorcery? As a sorcery? Now that I think about it, that other card, as a sorcery, probably wasn't as busted as I thought it was, because, you have to commit to the, trumpet blast or whatever before you attack, so that did balance it a bit, but oh well. Its musky, balsamic odor bothers those who trespass its territory. Yet the nectar from its flowers can cure all wounds. That's super interesting flavor that has nothing to do with the actual mechanics of this card. And this card is boring. So, make a 2/2. Not that interesting. Heron Broom is a 4 mana sorcery. exile the top 2 cards of your library. You may put one of those cards into your hand and the other into your graveyard. 4 mana, draw 1? Ew. When darkness fills the air, winter snows descend. The fields once plowed are untouched, and every building remains intact. You can do better than this. For 4 mana, we need to get a more interesting sorcery than we're getting. Throne of Glory, 4 mana sorcery. Choose a non-land card name. Interesting. Reveal the top 3 cards of your library. For each non-land card revealed this way, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Okay, so 2 things. First, choose a non-land card name is irrelevant. They don't use it later in the card, so a little bit kind of feels like wasted potential, but oh well. If I re-rolled this, we're not guaranteed to get a line like that again, so it's not like having it be irrelevant is just as good as it not being there at all, so I might as well keep it. Reveal the top 3 cards of your library. Okay. For each non-land card revealed this way, put it into your hand, then shuffle. So, it's 4 mana, draw 3 in white at sorcery speed, but if you hit lands, it whiffs. Interesting. It also reveals them, like you show it to your opponent. I think this card's not great, but probably... I think some white decks would run this just because they don't have a lot of draw options. I don't know my color in it super well, but I feel like white doesn't have a lot of draw options. So, probably actually legit. I think that this is one of those, like... It's a cool way of doing draw in white. Because my understanding of white draw effects is that they don't get them very much. But the idea of saying, not only are you unable to hit lands, which is funny, but also it shows to your opponent what's going to happen. Like, it shows them the cards. I feel like it's a very white thing to be like, this is what I drew. I'm showing you I drew this because, I don't know, I'm pompous or something. I think that checks out. I've always been puzzled by the tree. Mariana, Navigator of the Rakdos Navy. Ooh. I like the idea of Rakdos having a navy. It just seems so contrasting in concepts that's fun to me. Baleful Patron is a 4 mana 4/4 creature god. Not a legendary god. I love the idea of a non-legendary god. That's so interesting. Whenever a creature an opponent controls becomes tapped, you may pay white, white, white. If you do, gain 2 life. That is... like, a big investment. Like, white, white, white for 2 life isn't great, but maybe it's relevant as a mana sink, I guess. You leave open your mana to do something, then your opponent attacks, and you go, okay, cool, I'll pay 3 of the mana that I left open to do something different because I don't need to do that thing anymore. Possibly. Seems bad. Generally seems bad. Which I think I'm okay with. The idea of having, like, a kind of boring god is interesting. Like, we're used to seeing legendary gods because each god is, like, a unique person, right? But when we think about non-legendary creatures, it is like, it's any one of a number of people who fit the same description. And the idea of having multiple gods who are all this kind of same, like, level of god and have the similar ability. It's not that those individual people aren't individual people. It's just that, as far as the card goes, it's only... if you think of it as a spell that summons something like it does, it's summoning any one of those people. Any Baleful Patron. Yeah, it checks out. You might know the priest's... what the heck? Everything's so small. I need to get bigger screen. You might know the priest's canticle. The verse that beckons a crusader's blades, or perhaps you've heard of the lay, the anthem that accompanies the witch's dark brew. I don't think this card's very good, but I think I like it as a card in the set. it represents something very cool to my mind, and I think that's worth something. And it's probably playable. I mean, it's just a 4-mana 4/4. It passes the vanilla test if you're playing limited. Jade Shishin. Is that? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Is that also Sheen? Is it Jade Shishin? 3 mana, human cleric, 2/2. First strike, protection from black. Okay, a lot of protection going on. I liked it when it was protect everything but white. I thought that was interesting. But protection from black, I generally don't like protection as a mechanic. Because it's, unless it is a protection that you are bestowing in the middle, like as a sort of onboard trick. When Jade Shishin enters the battlefield, you gain 3 life. It can tap for white or blue. That's probably fine. Not being green is interesting in that, like, you don't see good mana dorks outside of green that much. So if this is a little bit worse than your expected mana dork, that's okay. It's in an off color. And it also has flexibility. It's white or blue, so it's not as bad even if it isn't very good. And ETB gives you some life, which is relevant for white. I like it. He speaks no harsh, griff-accented Chinese. Wait, what? What? Chinese? But his sermons are believed to be taken from his own experiences as a wandering spirit medium. Okay, this doesn't sound like it has anything to do with magic, but I am very into this. It sounds cool. Jade Shishin. Griff-accented Chinese. The idea of, like they speak the Griffin language. Okay, I gotta stop getting distracted. We gotta move on. Griff Enforcer. Okay, I didn't see that coming. A 2-mana enchantment creature, Phyrexian Giant? You can't have an enchantment Phyrexian. That doesn't make sense. 2 mana, 2/2 flash. Enchant creature you control. Okay. I'm not sure if the rules of the game allow an enchantment creature to enchant outside of bestow. Right? Because, like, in theory, it's an enchantment. Why couldn't this enchantment be attached to something? Everything that currently exists in the game, they stop being a creature while attached, right? Both enchantment creatures with bestow or artifact creatures, equipments with reconfigure, right? They stop being creatures during the attachment. What would happen if you attached a creature to something? I don't know if there's precedent for that. When an enchantment creature dies, return it to the battlefield transformed under its own control. What? Okay, so I'm going to talk a few things about this. My understanding of this card, if we just ignore the fact that it's a Phyrexian Giant, and we just pretend it's an aura, this enchants a creature. When the enchanted creature dies, the enchanted creature gets returned to the battlefield transformed. The idea of having alternate transform methods is super cool. Like, we saw this in Innistrad with the, I think it was in Innistrad, with the, like, the one that could transform all humans, right? To make a bunch of werewolves into werewolves. And of course, anything that didn't have a backside just would fail to transform. That'd be fine. The idea of having a set where you have an enchantment, an aura that you could slap on somebody to as an alternate way of transforming is a cool idea. I'm gonna reroll this. It's not appropriate, unfortunately. 7th Progenitor is a 2-mana 2/2 enchantment creature spirit. That's more like it. I love the idea of enchantment spirits. They're fun. With Disturb, of course, we saw enchantments that would go to the graveyard, then come back as enchantments, and that was really cool. This just cuts at the middle, man. They just are enchantment creature spirits. Whenever 7th Progenitor attacks, you gain 2 life. Cool. Life gain is totally a thing in white. That totally checks out. I'm sure there's some things that we're going to be happy of, like, whenever you gain life, get an effect. Excellent. The leaderless had learned not to fight when they knew they were alone. When they knew they were alone, they let loose a mighty shriek. They are so filled with power that they cannot control it. Only in this great rage can they find meaning. The Orzhov mythos. I don't know who they're talking about. What, the leaderless had learned not to fight? Interesting. Well, this is 7th Progenitor. I like them. I think it's a solid card. It's 2 and a 2/2 that gains life whenever it attacks. Rad. Also is an enchantment, if that's relevant. And a spear, if that's relevant. Plague Surge is a 4-mana instant. That's a rad name. Doesn't sound very white, but that's okay. Creatures you control get +2/+2 until end of turn. Alright. If a creature you control would deal damage this turn, prevent that damage. What? What? Okay, so first of all, it's a 4-mana instant. I think I missed that it's a 4-mana. This is such a cool card, except for the... I mean, if it didn't have that last line, it wouldn't be that cool. It'd just be a random pump spell. Like, we've seen them so many times. Who cares? A board-wide pump, but still. If a creature you control would deal damage this turn, prevent the damage. Can you ever turn that into an upside? Is that relevant? I feel like that isn't relevant. This is basically just give all your creatures you control +0/+2. Or something like that. Like, that's how this feels, which is just not very interesting. You're doomed, for the gods will not abandon you. Oh, snap. What? Oh, yeah, the gods aren't abandoning you, which makes you doomed. That's amazing. I'm gonna reroll that one. We can do better. Hidden Stockpile is a 4-mana instant. Choose one or both. Create a treasure token. It's an artifact with tap, sacrifice. Yeah, great. Okay. Or exile target artifact or enchantment. Sweet. Interesting. Huh. It gives you the choice, so you're not forced to exile something if, like, for example, you have artifacts and enchantments, but your opponent doesn't. You could still make the treasure. You probably wouldn't want to. You just save the card for later, but who knows? Maybe you need that. Maybe you have a really big play that you want to, on turn 5, you want to be playing a 6-drop or something. It seems like not a great idea, but whatever. Yeah. I mean, what is this really? This is a 3-mana exile artifact or enchantment, which seems kind of okay. I don't really know exactly how strong that is, but it seems pretty good. Especially in a meta that has enchantment creatures. But you can't play it until turn 4. Because it's giving you a refund on the mana. It's not actually 3 mana. Anytime something gives you like a treasure token like that, it always feels like, why isn't this just cheaper? Oftentimes it's better than it just being cheaper, but still. Anyway, I like it. It's good enough. Recklessness isn't always stupidity. Neheb. Mage Captain of the Catacombs Sultans. The Catacomb Sultans, sorry. Thor, God of Thunder. Just straight up Thor? Oh, we're into blue! Holy crap, I didn't think we'd get through the white that soon. Okay. Interesting, we made it to blue. Nice. Can I really just use straight up Thor, God of Thunder? That's so boring. It's just actually Thor. 3 mana, 3/2 with flying, tap, add, colorless. I mean, I'd run this, don't get me wrong. I would run this. But it's Thor. That's so... The world tree's roar shatters the mists, forging the Valonian storm as it strikes Thor down. My dear brothers, we are well and truly born of the fiery light of Midgard. Goddess Odin. Okay, I'm into Goddess Odin. That sounds cool, but I'm re-rolling this. No, no. Thor, you don't get to be in my set. Executive decision here. Aki the Undying is a 3-mana legendary creature, human knight. They're a 3/3 with vigilance, okay? When Aki the Undying enters the battlefield, draw a card, okay? If your life total is greater than your starting life total, it, I assume meaning Aki the Undying, enters the battlefield with twice that many life counters on it. Wait, what? I think we have to reroll this. I'm sorry. I think we have to reroll this. He is the fire that flickers within your heart, yet must burn itself out before it can glow. Unfortunate. That was a pretty cool card up till that point. Talia, Heretic, Cathar. Now you might say, I didn't need to reroll that. It enters with twice as many life counters. It has no life counters, so it's 0. The card functions. Maybe the card functions, but it... No, I'm rerolling it. Talia, Heretic, Cathar is a 3-mana legendary creature Eldrazi? Oh, cool. Is Talia actually a Cathar? That sounds correct in my limited Magic lore knowledge. I liked... Oh, she got corrupted. At the beginning of each end step, if you gained life this turn, put a creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. Huh. It's not a May ability also, which is weird. So you might not want that ability, but otherwise it's a 3-mana 3/4. I like this card. I think this card's cool. Heretic Faith inspires violence in all who joins it. Okay, we're officially into our blue cards. Let's go. And we've got Eldrazi. I didn't see that coming. Hoarding Mind is a 4-mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets -3/-0. Okay, so you neutralize an opponent's thing, but don't kill it. Sometimes that's relevant. 3 mana. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Oh, that's cool. Oh, this is a cool card. Huh. So you put this on your opponent's creature. They get -3 attack. They can't really attack very well. If they attack into you, then you just hit your face. They don't do any damage. If you attack into them, they could block with it to die, potentially, which maybe limits your attacking ability because you don't want to kill it, because you want it to stick around so you have this mana sink of 3 mana to bounce something. Oh, I like this card. This card's cool. It's like interesting. For 4 mana, maybe it's a bit too expensive. I don't know. I couldn't really tell you, but the design is actually really rich. Like Feral Wolves, the Icewild's master thrives in isolation. Like, I wonder if you actually want to put this on your stuff more often. It's things that aren't planning on attacking anyway, just so that you have this static effect. The idea of, like enchantments are cool. The idea of having this enchantment that's attached to a creature means that if the creature dies, it goes away, so you have to, like, find a way to put it into play so you can get the, like... It's an aura that behaves more like a normal enchantment, and then the aura part is like maybe a drawback. It's super interesting. I really like this card. It's probably not very good. I like it a lot, though. Manifester is a 7. Whoa, okay. I mean, that's the mana cost from Theros Beyond Death. All right. Manifester is a 7-mana 4/6 spirit with blue, tap, return a creature you control to its owner's hand. I'm not saying that's not a useful ability. Sometimes. I do think we can do better for 7 mana. Maybe we can even get a discount thing. This is probably one of those cards that's supposed to discount itself. You rarely see the AI come up with those cards. It could be interesting if it came up with something. He trades in mana to turn ice into living bodies. That's cool. Not actually what you did, though. Invisible Flameshifter is a 7-mana 5/4 elemental shapeshifter with Shapeshift 4. Shapeshift 4 means this creature enters the battlefield with 4 time counters on it. When it becomes the target of a spell or ability, remove a time counter from it. When the last is removed, sacrifice it. That's useless. What? If it was like, it has hexproof 4 times, that would actually be a really cool mechanic. Actually, that is a really cool mechanic. Why don't they have that? Like, instead of shield counters, which say, like, damage is prevented, it's like... It's like... Hexproof 4. Enters with 4 hexproof counters on it. Whenever it becomes the target of an ability, it removes a hexproof counter. That would be cool, actually. That would be cool. That's not what this does, though. This just says... When it becomes the target of a spell or ability, remove a time counter. If you remove all the time counters, it gets sacrificed. So that's just purely a downside. It's not like it counters the spell, but if they all get removed, it dies, which also would be a cool way of having this, like, interesting balancing act of, like, you're not just eating through hexproof triggers, you're also gonna kill it if you hit it that many times. But I feel like this is just target this thing 4 times and it dies, which is not exciting. When Invisible Flameshifter becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice another creature. Yeah, so this card... Okay, so we're obviously re-rolling this, but I do want to talk about this card because I think it's really, really fascinating almost design. So, when Invisible Flameshifter becomes the target of a spell or ability, sacrifice another creature. So that doesn't combo with Shapeshift 4, but the idea of saying, okay, if this gets targeted, this has an ability that triggers whenever it gets targeted by a spell or ability. If this ability triggers 4 times, it also dies. Unfortunately, they didn't make that because that actually would have been enough. If it just had Shapeshift 4 and, you know, when Invisible Flameshifter becomes the target of a spell or ability, I don't know, destroy target creature or something, then that becomes an upside to it being targeted. And you can target it too. It's both players. It's symmetrical. But if you can only do it a max of 4 times and then it dies. Like, that's actually a really interesting design. And this card is not it, right? It's 2 bad things. Maybe in the right deck you could turn them into an upside, but not for 7 mana. This card is just bad. But, ooh. The AI is so interesting when it comes to just like, here's just an idea. Here's just an idea. As a designer, you can then riff on that idea. Like, that's cool. It's like actual design work, how you get a bunch of people in a room, and then you spitball ideas, and then the first idea is not necessarily good, but you're able to riff on it and make a good idea and make the actual final card at the end. Like, it's so... Okay. I found my love, and it's called my pain. Axel Tazkata, Battle Mage of Kessig. Oof. Marsh Warden is a 7 mana, 5/5 Minotaur Soldier. Whenever Marsh Warden or another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures you control get +1/+0 and lifelink until end of turn. I still think we can do better. I'm into this, like, Marsh Warden is a cool name for a Minotaur Soldier. Like, Minotaur Soldiers just being in the setting is fun. For 7 mana, is 5/5 enough? Maybe. Like, once you get to those higher mana values, often you're sitting there and being like, well, I got like 8 mana to spend, and I'm only spending 5 it anyway, so I might as well spend the 7 for a 5/5, and that's not so bad. It buffs your whole team, right? Like, creatures you control get +1/+0, and lifelink, which is potentially a huge swing. So, it might be worth it. You can't, you know, like, non-tokens, so you can't, just summon a whole bunch of tokens and like massive buff, but I mean, you play Marsh Warden, you attack with the board, you get a little bit of healing, then the next turn you dump your hand a bunch of 1/1s or something. probably that's not going to work because your hand's going to be empty, but like let's pretend. Get like +3, +4. Yeah, that could be pretty strong. I'm gonna leave it. I don't want to keep re-rolling something that's actually pretty hard to satisfy. Like 7 mana is it's hard to make something that is satisfying for that. So let's leave this as is. That's cool. It's on the edge of being really cool. Our homeland will not be tamed. You will never bring the wind, nor your frozen enemy peace. Spear Mantle of Anmor. Do you think Spear Mantle of Anmor is a Minotaur soldier, or maybe like a leader of a Minotaur army? Cool. Lachion, God of Storms, is a 3-mana legendary enchantment creature god. This is the ideal, right? Is that it's a legendary enchantment creature, it's gotta be a god. Like, nothing else fits. And even then, you can see the set symbol is cut off, but again, we will allow it. 3-mana, 3/2, legendary enchantment creature god. When Lachion, God of Storms, attacks, defending player sacrifices a creature. Awesome. 3 mana, exile target creature that player controls. Ew, that's not good. And put it onto the battlefield under your control. This is so close, right? This should just read 3 mana, exile target creature, then put it onto the battlefield under your control, right? And then return to the battlefield under your control. Right? Which is probably too broken anyway, and it probably should be rerolled anyway, but so frustrating seeing it, like, target creature of that player? Who is that player? I mean, you could say it's something like, well, you can only use this ability when that player is in effect, in that, like, you have to be in the middle of attack. That would be cool. Not the way Magic works, though. Like, that's not how that works. They're separate abilities. His Majesty would rarely bless mortals, preferring to destroy their dreams. Yeah, that sounds like Lachion, God of Storms. Grisly Blessing. That is a weird name, but I love, like, abstract names for god figures. That's so fun. Grisly Blessing is a 3-mana legendary enchantment creature god. It's a 2/4. Whenever an opponent discards a card, you may pay 1. If you do, you gain 1 life and draw a card. I don't know how good this is, but if you could make like a black-blue like discard deck, and you just like for an extra 1 mana, 1 generic, you get to draw a card every time you force your opponent to discard, that's cool. And whenever an opponent discards a card, right, like, it's not 1 or more cards. I think that should trigger for every card they discard. I believe that's correct. That's cool. Alright, I'm okay with that reroll. That ended up well. The long night began when he arrived. First star in the sky. Howl of the Hunt is a 1-mana blue instant. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Okay. If you control 2 or more creatures with different powers, interesting, that creature, which creature, gains trample until end of turn. I assume you mean the target creature, right? Creature with trample can deal excess damage to player or planeswalker it's attacking. Yeah. Interesting. So, yeah, target creature you control gets +2/+2. If you control 2 or more creatures with different powers, that creature gains trample until end of turn. I assume it's staggered in this way intentionally. Intentionally, it's an AI, but whatever. Let me know in the comments, would this see the +2/+2 before it decides whether or not you control 2 or more creatures with different powers? Right? Because I think it should. And then it would give you trample, right? It's like, It doesn't say then, but like it could be like it could read then if you control 2 or more creatures with different power, give it trample as well until end of turn. Yeah. I like this card. It's probably too strong, honestly. It's a really solid 1-mana pump spell at instant speed. The carriage horse would neigh to ask, is there a portal to the blight? I don't know what that means. What? Polymorphism. That's a cool name. 3 mana instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may sacrifice a creature or planeswalker. Target creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Huh. I do wish this was a spell. Like, the fact that it's called Polymorphism really makes me wish this was a spell that was like, as an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature, and then it like gives you a thing, right? Like the creature got turned into something. That's like fun. But 3 mana to give +3/+3. Not terrible, not great. You may sack a thing. It's just an optional sack. Like, I guess sometimes that's relevant, right? Where you're just like, I want a sack outlet. It's not a reusable sack outlet, but it is instant speed. Like, you're allowed. That's potentially useful? I don't know. That's weird. The moment's error was not enough to save the wind in its sails. Huh. Weird. Very weird. I think we keep it. Merfolk Explorer is a 1-mana enchantment creature nymph. Not a merfolk. Creatures you control have Swamp Walk. Okay, I don't like those effects. They can't be blocked as long as offending player controls a swamp. It's a 1-mana 1/1 that gives all your stuff Swamp Walk. There's no reason for blue to be like hating on black. That doesn't seem like a reasonable design thing. It's not like there's going to be a through line of that in the set. We know that already. That seems like a weird thing. But as just a creature, like it feels kind of, other than the fact that it's not a merfolk, it feels pretty appropriate. Just like, yep, merfolk, they're an explorer. They give all of your creatures unblockable if your opponent controls a swamp. Very powerful effect if they control a swamp. Useless effect any other time. I don't want to keep this card. I'm going to re-roll it. Sorry, everybody. Feel free to screen cap and use it yourself. With roots sunk into the spongy mud of the marsh, the merfolk guide The merfolk guide travelers through the bog and help the faithful keep watch on the Nightwell. Cigardian Healer is a 1-mana enchantment creature god. Another non-legendary god. Cool. They're a 1-mana 1/1 with indestructible and creatures you control have lifelink. That's cool. As long as Enchanted Creature is a creature. There is no Enchanted Creature that's not that kind of enchantment. It has lifelink. This is so close to... If they just stopped at the second line, this would have been a cool card. He heals those in need, no matter how far they stray from Cigarda. It's probably better that we reroll it anyway. I don't really know what Cigardians have to do with this card. Oh well. Viscerid Dragoon is a 1-mana 1/1 enchantment creature Naga Scout. When Viscerid Dragoon enters the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Weird. I don't know how often that's going to be relevant, but okay. When it attacks... Viscerid Dragoon attacks each combat if able, which is pretty bad for a 1/1. It's probably just going to die. When Viscerid Dragoon leaves the battlefield, put target card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control attached to a creature. What? Huh. That's so interesting. So, like, if you targeted an aura or you targeted a equipment, it would enter attached, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure if you target an aura, it would enter attached anyway. I think that's just how that works. When it enters, it attaches. This is how enchantment auras work. But if you target something that can't attach to something, does it just fail? Maybe that's why things have to lose creature to attach, right? Like, it just fails to attach if it's a creature or something. I believe that. I'm going to keep this. It's interesting and weird and generally bad, but then it has this death trigger, which is actually pretty strong. It's got a lot of text for not doing a ton. But I'm going to leave it. We rerolled this too many times, and I don't know. Maybe this card doesn't function. Let me know if this card functions or not. But I think it does. And it's a cool effect I've never seen before, which is, you know, why I don't know if it functions. An unspeakable summons. All thoughts, dreams, and schemes converge to serve it. Now, that said, I don't know if we're going to see any, like, equipments. Like, that's clearly what it's best combined with, you know. Blizzard Bunting is a 3-mana bird wizard. Yeah! It's a 2/2 with flying, okay. Whenever a source of your choice deals damage to you, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. So I'm not sure how the, like, source of your choice part of this line works. Like, to me, this should just read, whenever a source of damage, whenever you are dealt damage, you may. I assume that's what it means, right? A source of your choice, I think basically means when a source deals damage to you, you may choose it. Right? So it's not a must effect. You're not forced to exile cards. I don't really know. It's a cool card. I'm going to keep it in. A birder in flight carries a rare sight and a secret. Oh, that didn't roll. Here we go. Fires of Invention is a 2-mana instant. Counter target spell. Okay. Fires of Invention deals 4 damage to any target. Holy crap. Wow, that's really good. I don't want to play against this card. That card is gross. 2-mana target, like, counter with no restrictions, just straight up happens. And it deals 4 damage to any target. Now, the benefit of this card is that you can't just use this to deal 4 damage. There has to be something to counter, so it's kind of a drawback, but it's just really good. Like, it's just a really good card. I'm going to allow it. For each artifact a human used to call upon, forge a phylactery in his or her likeness. Sadar Jabari. Weird. Fated Retribution is a 3-mana enchantment. Blue, tap, target creature gets -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. That is scary. You have a few creatures, you can just start 1-mana murdering things. Oof. I wish that all creatures lay down their arms and work together. Miri of the Weatherlight. So it's 3 mana as an enchantment. It doesn't do anything until you start, like, tapping it. But enchantments, if I remember correctly, can tap the moment they come into the battlefield. They're not, they're not creatures, so they don't have summoning sickness. So 4 mana, zap something. It does mean that X is a minimum of 0. If this was a creature, the minimum would be 1, so that's something. I like it. I think it's a cool card. It's probably too strong, and that's what AI Magic's all about. Druid of Duskspring. Ooh. A 7-mana enchantment god. Okay, that's not correct. What? Wow, interesting. The AI decided that this enchantment, while not an enchantment creature, still should count as a god. And you know what? I think they're right. I think that you should be able to have a god that's just like, oh yeah, I don't have a body, but I am here. I'm present. I'm an enchantment. Probably would need to be like a tribal enchantment or something to be technically accurate or blah, blah, blah. Who cares? This is cool. It has First Strike. It doesn't have a body, so that's irrelevant, but if somehow you were like, you know, enchantment, you know, gains base power 5/5 and is a creature, it would have First Strike. I'll allow it. 3 mana, return Archdruid of Duskspring to its owner's hand. So, this card's bad and is going to get rerolled. Conceptually, I think it's interesting. Functionally, I think it is actually, you know, illegal. Like, it can't have a creature subtype without being a creature. I'm pretty sure that, like, vehicles technically have creature subtypes without being creatures because they have the ability to become creatures, but maybe they don't? Do vehicles have creature subtypes? I don't know. Ignoring that, this is cool, but we're rerolling. As the elves buried their dead in heaps, so the druids honed their art in the sun. I don't know how those two things are related, but okay. Paralyzing Tendrils is a 7 mana aura. Enchanted Creature has double strike. I mean, giving things double strike is terrifying. It's probably not worth 7 mana. To save Alina's family, Volcaron rode through the sea and now holds her family in thrall. I'm really excited to see a cool 7 mana enchantment, because that's like... I don't know what the AI is going to come up with that feels appropriate to 7 mana. Being forced to make an enchantment. Like, if this was a creature, it would just make like a 7/7 and we'd be done with it. And it'd be like, it's fine, I guess. But it wouldn't be exciting. But forcing it to make an enchantment, I want to keep rolling this till it does something cool, because I think that it has a lot of potential to do so. Just as a heads up, I jumped over to Scryfall real quick. Battle Mastery is a 3 mana enchantment. Enchanted Creature has double strike. That said, it's a pretty rare effect. So if you're playing mono blue, it might be worth it to you to spend 7 mana on the same effect that white gets for 3. I feel like probably it's not, but maybe. Who am I to say? Maybe. I'm going to re-roll it anyway. I just thought I'd point that out. Celestial Cabalist is a 7 mana enchantment spirit. So once again, it's giving creature subtypes to our enchantment, but oh well, let's allow it. It has flying. Again, it doesn't have a body, so I can't really do anything with that, but okay. For 2 mana, counter target spell. Oh. For 3 mana, you gain 1 life. Boring. For 4 mana, put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library. Okay, so I have to ask you a question. 7 mana, do nothing, but you can spend 2 mana to counter a spell. As an onboard trick, right? Your opponent sees it coming. You can spend 2 to counter every spell for the rest of the game. If you have a way of cheating this out, that is gross. If you don't, it might be fair. Like, it probably isn't. It's still probably too strong. It still might be too strong. A worthy traveler makes an acceptable host. I think this card is terrifying. It's probably too slow to be good, and therefore it's probably balanced, but I mean, what do you do against that, right? Someone plays this thing, they wait until they have, 9 mana. They play it. If you try to remove it, they counter the removal. And then once they untap with it, they just have 9 mana that they can counter things with the entire rest of that is. And also you can gain life and stuff, I guess. Who cares? I'm going to allow it, but that is terrifying. Celestial Cabalist. So again, this is an enchantment spirit that doesn't have a body. But I guess it's like a Cabalist that's a spirit. Okay. Cool. Cool. Death Spelting is a 2-mana... Sorry, that picture cracked me up. Thanyasi Optari. 2-mana enchantment aura enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. Ooh, spicy. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose life equal to the number of artifacts you control. Oh, this card's cool. I think it's in the wrong set, right? This is an Enchantment Matters set. I don't know how many artifacts are going to be in the game, but that is so cool. I don't know if it's so strong it needs a downside, but I love that duality. Like, okay, every card you got, it makes it bigger, but then it hurts you. It just, The light is weak and unobtrusive in the trees, save where it makes a roaring, brilliant passage. Shu Sun, Trail Guide. Geyser Spray is a 4-mana instant. Target player reveals their hand and discards all non-token permanents. So, first thing, the wording of discard cards. I don't know them very well. Would it be appropriate to say, target player reveals their hand and discards all permanents? Would that be an appropriate wording, or would it need to say something like, and discards all cards from their hand that are permanents, or something? Like, is it assumed that discard all does mean from their hand? Like, that is assumed, I think. So I'm going to allow that. I think the non-token word is just irrelevant. Like, there are no... You can't have a token permanent in your hand. That doesn't make sense. Unless you're playing with that one Infinity card that lets tokens become, like, return... Like, not act as tokens, but they still count as tokens. So those would, I guess, dodge it. Like, that's... You know what? I'll allow it. For 4 mana, discard your whole hand of all permanents. So it misses anything that's not a permanent. So sorcery is an instance. But it still hits lands, and it hits creatures and planeswalkers and enchantments. That's terrifying. Well, we have a discard deck. Like, discard is something that mattered on a previous card. I'm into it. Let's see if we can, like, play up this theme. The Tranquilizer's prey froze in midair, the boom echoing in the surrounding wilderness. The Geyser Spray. Sea Gate Sentinels. Is that a real card? That sounds really familiar to me. 3 mana, 2/2 illusion. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a 1/1 blue fractal creature token with flying. Okay, weird that they're fractals, because that's, you know, fractals usually are a bit different than that. They got, like, counters on them and stuff, but... Okay. Yeah. Whenever you guys an instant, like, a Spellslinger deck that just makes a token every time, like, we know that's good. That's like, what, Murmuring Mystic or Babbling Bird Mage? I don't know. Whispering Wizard, Murmuring Mystic. Yeah, that's the pair. The Dolphin City guarded by ancient bony sprites. It probably means Bonnie. The Dolphin City guarded by ancient Bonnie spires. Oh, spires. Okay. Rises from the surf to fight in its eternal war against the sea elves. The Dolphin City? Wait a minute, I didn't react to that appropriately. Oh, yeah, I want to see a Dolphin City. Dolphin people. Or not people. I mean, dolphins are already people. They're smart. They're already people. Shrine Broker is a 3-mana enchantment creature merfolk shaman. It's a 1/1 that taps for colorless. Is that okay? In blue? Like, again, this is what I was saying before. Like, it's not in green. In green, that's pretty bad. But in blue? Maybe that's fine? I'm gonna allow it. It's fine. We can have some sort of bland, commons. It's okay. Let's keep going. I gotta not waste so much time. Quicksilver Goby. Ooh, it's a fish! 4 mana, 2/2, tap, add blue. Heck yeah! Fish, fish, fish. To hide in the shadow of the coral, goggles of starlight. What? To steal the heart of the deep, braids of soulfire. Weird. I like it. Again, is it good? I don't know, but it's a fish. Snow-covered mountain. Wait, you can't just call it snow-covered mountain. No. A snow-covered mountain is a 2-mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, mill a card. If you can't, draw a card. So, I don't know if there's any effects that prevent you from being able to mill. If there is, that's really cool. Self-mill is useful in blue often, and then having the ability of saying, okay, but I have this effect that says you can't mill cards, so I get to draw cards every turn for 2 mana. That's cool. I don't know if that exists, but I like the idea of that 2-card combo. Otherwise, this just builds you to 0 and then forces you to draw, which is funny. Some live within the storms, those most determined to weather the worst. I was so ready to just reroll this in a heartbeat and be like, nope, it's called Snow-Covered Mountain. We're rerolling. And you know what? Who cares? Who cares? It's just a name. I know that's important to Magic, but, like, it's fine. It's fine. This is an enchantment. This is Snow-Covered Mountain, parentheses, enchantment. It's fine. It's a different card. That's a cool card. I like that. Delusions of Adequacy. Wow, you actually think you're adequate? Amazing. How delusional. Delusions of Adequacy is a 4-mana enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may exile target creature you control with power less than or equal to the number of creatures you control. Beginning of your upkeep, you may exile a creature that has power less than number of creatures you control. Got it. Okay. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. That creature gains haste until end of turn. Put it into your hand and shuffle. Okay. Okay. So I love the idea of a card that's like the beginning of your upkeep. You may exile a creature you control. If you do, tutor out the top creature of your deck and goes directly into the battlefield. That's a cool idea for a card. Instead, it goes into your hand. Is that still useful? For 4 mana? Maybe. Right? Maybe. Maybe that's relevant. Maybe. The restriction of only being able to, exile things with low power is kind of irrelevant. If the power of the thing you exiled mattered, that would be really interesting, right? Reveal the top number of cards in your library until you reveal a creature card with power greater than the exiled creature's power or something, right? Therefore, that would matter. Otherwise, it's just who cares? You can't exile big things, but you want to exile, tokens for this anyway, right? So you exile a token and you get to draw a creature. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool idea. Also, it reveals the cards on the top of your deck. Oh, put it into your hand and shuffle. Okay, so never mind. It doesn't reveal the order. So it's just pull a random creature from your deck, put it in your hand. I think that's actually relevant. For 4 mana, you can exile a card every turn to draw a creature. That's actually kind of cool. I don't know if 4 mana is the appropriate cost for that, but it is actually kind of a cool effect and probably more interesting than what I was thinking of just cheating it out for free. Draw is still valuable, blah, 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 blah. That said, that creature gains haste until end of turn. Do we allow this? What? Like, that doesn't even, like, what? I think I'm going to allow this. I know I'm inconsistent, but I do often say, you know what? Sometimes you got to embrace the AI being a little silly. This doesn't hurt anything. Or does it? Like, is this functionally wrong because the implication is that if I played that creature this turn, it would have haste. And that's not a thing that we can do. Because that would actually be kind of cool, right? If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand. If you play that creature this turn, it gains haste until end of turn, right? Like, if we assume that that is the intended wording, does that still function? Like, is that actually functional? And I think it's not, right? Because we can't actually verify which card is in our hand, right? We don't actually have that, like, this card's revealed, it has perpetually. We're not doing that. We're not playing alchemy here, right? So if we assume that's how it's supposed to function, I think we have to invalidate the whole card. If we assume it just does nothing, then that's fine. It's just being quirky, but I think you would have differing opinions from player to player because it's not a real effect. It's not how a card would actually be written. We don't have real precedent. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is like some weird fringe old school card that like puts a card into your hand and gives it haste or something. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's real. I'm going to reroll this. In the cult's name, the commander plucks the very sanity from the ground. Weird. That was kind of a cool card, though, otherwise. Touch of Frost. 4 mana, Aura. Enchanted Creature gets -4/-0. I just think it's boring, and I want to reroll it. In the days of the ancient era, ancient blood ran through the veins of the Urobo people. I don't know the Urobo people. Interesting. Wither. 4 mana enchantment. Blue, sacrifice Wither. Okay, so basically it's a 6 mana spell. Exile all creatures with power less than the sacrifice creature's power. Wither's not a creature. That effect doesn't work. In the depths of the bitterly cold winter, the thaw does not last long enough for the bodies of the slain to decompose. Ooh, that's cool. Okay. Last Hope is a 4 mana Aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +3/+1 and has trample. It can deal damage equal to... It can deal excess combat damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. Huh. 4 mana, 3/1, trample. It's not super exciting, right? Like, I think this is a perfectly reasonable effect. I think I'd probably pay for this effect because trample is important sometimes. It's weird to see it in blue, but that's fine. It's AI. You can't expect the color pie to be honored. It's just kind of boring. Like, it's just like, okay, I'm going to allow it. I know this is way less interesting than the cards we saw previous, but there's plenty more cards. Let's just move on. For her blood runs pure and true, but never runs dry. That's good. Spellskite. Spellskite is a 2 mana, 2/2 Merfolk Wizard. For blue, target creature gains hexproof. That is busted. That is too strong. For 3, return Spellskite from your graveyard to your hand. I think this is the first actual straight up, like, too strong veto. Maybe it's not the first one. I don't remember anything I ever do ever. But that's so good. It's a 2-mana 2/2. You can give something hexproof, which, you know, that's like countering spell that targets a creature, right? Or stifle an ability. For 2 mana, return it from your graveyard. You can just, like, return it for 4. You can spend 4 to put it back on the battlefield. Like, should I allow this? I think I'm re-rolling this. That's too good. How to understand the Murk. Those who wish to venture too deeply must use their mind and their guild to ensure they do not become their own undoing. Eltanon, Necropolis Watch Captain. I'm sorry to see it go, but that's a lot. Ooh, a wall! I love walls. Altar of Flame is a 2-mana wall. It's an 0/4 with Defender, and it has blue. Altar of Flame gains lifelink until end of turn. Huh. This is just a 2-mana 0/4 with Defender. I like walls. I just think they're fun, but like, lifelink's cool if you could buff this, right? Like, that's totally a thing you could do. That's not, like, the hardest thing to do, but it could just have lifelink. Like, that doesn't need it to be an activated ability. I mean, the 2-mana 0/4 is, like, kind of... If I'm not mistaken, I'm going to actually check Scryfall for a bit. Okay, so if we take a look at, you know, expected things, Aether Flame Wall is a 2-mana 0/4, but it also has Fire Breathing. We've got Angelic Wall is a 2-mana 0/4, but it also has Flying. The idea of saying it's a 2-mana 0/4, but it also has lifelink isn't unreasonable. That's, like, kind of going rate. 2-mana 0/4 is really common. That's a 1/4. But it doesn't even have lifelink. You have to pay 1 for the lifelink. And the lifelink's just never going to be relevant. It's like, it's so rare that's even going to matter. Because it's an 0/4. I don't know. I think we re-roll this. Alright, so yeah, 2-mana 0/4 is, like, kind of going rate, but they usually have some upside. Lifelink, and lifelink you have to pay for especially, just is not enough of an upside. I'm re-rolling this. Serenity is not given freely, nor is wisdom. These are found only in the direst of times. Shannon Frostblade Chronicles. They sound cool. Sergeant at Arms is a 2-mana 2/2 human soldier. When Sergeant at Arms enters the battlefield, draw a card. It's so boring, but it's so simple and, like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'd run that. I would super run that card. I may be lowborn, but I can be of service. Wow. Can't believe. Seeming Skydiver is a 2-mana 2/2 bird with flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice Seeming Skydiver unless you pay 3. It's got upkeep 3? Screw you, I'm re-rolling this. Seeming Skydivers flap towards the tower they are flying over, latching onto it. Then, once they reach it, they slide off again and repeat the process. That's nice. Happy for you. Wojek Battlemaster. Okay. Wojek Battlemaster is a 2-mana 3/1 Dwarf Berserker that can't block. He drew his axes, but now they fight for him. So, I think this might be an example of a card that's, like, not good, but, like, actually kind of feels appropriate for a draft chaff. Like, I feel like this is something you would see in draft chaff. And you'd probably run it in limited, because you're like, I just need a body. I'll have a 2-mana 3/1 that attacks that, like, can't block. Yeah. Yeah. It's not interesting, but I think it's good. Yeah. I'm trying to not do too much. I've talked a lot about my rules for rerolling and how bad they are. Frostmourne? Okay. But I think that there's something to be said for not rerolling things just based on flavor. I know I did that earlier with Thor, but that was different. And so while I'm kind of not that excited about these Dwarven Barbarians or Berserkers or whatever they were being a blue, like, faction, I don't get to decide that. And I like that. I want to be a little hands-off. Frostmourne Skyblazer is a 1-mana 1/1 Aetherborn Monk. Cool. It has flying. Alright. Frostmourne Skyblazer attacks each combat if able. Okay. So it's kind of like a 1-mana 1/1 flyer that can't block. Because often that's what you want your 1-mana 1/1 flyers for, is just to block, like, to chump block the enemy flyers. So that's kind of cool. It attacks every turn, so this is flying. It's probably not going to get chump blocked and die. Yeah, not chump blocked. You know, it probably isn't just going to be blocked and die. She gave it its name. Now it wants a different name. All right, sure. Cool. Ulrich of Rama is a 6-mana sorcery. Ooh. Okay. Doesn't seem like the appropriate name for a sorcery, but whatever. Return all creatures you control to their owner's hands. Okay, so a couple things. One, this effect is potentially very strong in certain situations, like that's potentially very strong. It would be a lot stronger if it was instant speed. I don't think 6 mana is an appropriate cost for it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm rerolling this. The heavy crown of cold atop Ulrich's head blocks all the light of Rama, the warmest sun of all. Ooh. So there's suns with names. That's cool. That's really fun. Crush the Root is a 6-mana sorcery. Create 2/2 blue angel creature tokens. They don't even have flying. We can definitely do better. Yeah, I mean, 6 mana sorcery, create 2/2. Yeah, it's now. Now. Tazim and Set have always known each other's power. Jan, yours gateway evangelist. Weird. Angelic Feast, that's a cool name. 6 mana sorcery, return all other, okay, I'm gonna just ignore that part, non-land permanents to their owner's hands. At sorcery speed, not the scariest thing, but also probably a lot fairer. Yeah, so this is a 6 mana. It's a 6 mana board wipe, but it's at sorcery speed. If you did it at instant speed, you get to keep your hand full, right? But your opponents have to discard to down hand size. Or one opponent will, if you're in multiplayer. But at sorcery speed, you're doing it on your turn, which means you're discarding down to hand size. I guess it also means you can, like, play things immediately. If you have extra mana, you could actually rebuild first, I guess, kind of. That's not relevant. And then it could pass it to your opponent, and then they go, cool. My hand's full of stuff, but I'll play it. It's not that bad. I think it's probably okay. Like, I probably would run this in limited, because I just don't have any other board. I don't even know. Would I? To Scryfall! Okay, we found something that's almost exactly the same, right? So this is a sorcery. It returns all non-land permanents to their owner's hand. The difference is that it has Miracle. So you can cast this for only 2 if you do it right at the beginning of your, like, the turn you draw it, right as you draw it. Which could be interesting. But let's just compare this. This is a 5 mana spell. And this is a 6 mana spell. So Angelic Feast is strictly worse. That doesn't mean it's unprintable, right? If we look at this, it is a rare, right? So often commons are strictly worse. That's okay. Or uncommons if we honor the rarity given by the AI, which I usually don't. I don't know. I think it's not good enough, but I think I will keep it because it's such a big ask to have a good high mana value spell from the AI. Like, it's hard. So I think we'll allow it and we'll move on. The dragon smiles upon the sacrifices, for their needs are met. Cool. Whipcord Murzerker. Murzerker is so good. What? That's so funny. Whipcord Murzerkers is a 4-mana 2/2 enchantment creature merfolk. It has flying and enchant creature. Ah, crap. Once again, I don't think we can allow any creatures that don't have something like Bestow to do enchanting. I think it's just not appropriate. When Whipcord Murzerkers enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named Whipcord Murzerkers, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Is a 4-mana 2/2 with flying that ETB finds another 4-mana 2/2 with flying good? I think probably. It sounds pretty good to me. Oh well. No sooner did the Empress whip the chittering horde into the nearest Whipcord tent than it fell under her command. Runebreaker is a 4-mana enchantment creature, Aetherborn Wizard. So, we'll have to address this because it hasn't come up yet today. I really avoid cut-off text like we're seeing in the Aetherborn Wizard. Because we're dealing with enchantment creatures, which take up a lot of space, I'm not going to be too strict on it. Just, as long as we know what it's supposed to say, we can ignore the fact that there might be a third creature type, but probably isn't. And it's fine. We know what it means. We're going to ignore that. We're making an exception because enchantment creature just takes up a lot of the type line. It's irrelevant, though, because it says enchant creature. 4 mana, 2/4 enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, tap that creature. It doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Do not cloak yourselves in the shadows, for even a single blade will raise the bone. What? Will raise the bane. Marauding Scab. Ogre Necromancer. Weird. Sunforger is a 4-mana enchantment creature Sphinx. Ooh, I want to see an enchantment Sphinx. They're a 3/2 for 4. When Sunforger enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. For blue, return Sunforger to its owner's hand. Huh. This is repeatable 5 mana, gain 2 life. Right? Like, you can literally just go 4 mana, 1 mana, return it. 4 mana, 1 mana, return it. 4 mana, 1 mana, return it, right? To get infinite life. Yeah, It can dodge a lot of stuff. I think this card's good. 4 mana for a 3/2 with 2 life gain. That can then protect itself by bouncing itself and let you get the ETB again. Yeah, I think that's legit. I think that's quite legit. Your ancient tales warned of how life in Ravnica is based on fear, but that fear should not define you. Ooh, Ravnica coming up again. We saw, what, a Rakdos card earlier? That was white, I think, and talked about pirates, maybe? Navy, talked about the Navy. Scrap Raptor is a 5 mana, 5/5 dinosaur with flash and flying? Oh, that's terrifying. For 3 mana, Scrap Raptor can't be blocked this turn. What? That's so good. Okay. Those whose weapons were rusted out long ago must turn to something else to get through the winter. Dawnseeker Shogun. Oh, that's rad. This card's great. Maybe not as good as I think it is, because maybe I'm just a Timmy. I don't know, but it seems rad to me. Oh, that's cool. Revealing Meddler is a 1 mana sorcery. Revealing Meddler. Weird name for a sorcery, but okay. Deals 1 damage to target creature and 1 damage to you. For 1 mana? I mean, ping is relevant sometimes. Sorcery speed? I don't know how strong a 1 mana sorcery should be, to be honest, but I'm rerolling this. This is boring. Every ounce of strength I can muster, I channel into my soulful expression. Dash, Kitsune of Valor. They sound cool. Why can't this be that card? That sounds way cooler. Surge of Hope is a 1 mana sorcery. Surge of Hope deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain 3 life. That's so much better! Instead of 1 damage to a creature and you take 1 damage, it's 3 damage to a creature and you gain 3 life. Is that too strong? It's a sorcery, right? Like, if we compare this to Lightning Bolt, it can't hit face, it's sorcery speed, but it does gain you 3 life, so it also has an upside. I think that's fine. I'm sure this card is pushed. I don't think it's so pushed that we can't keep it. Some planeswalkers aren't quite so interested in gold. Cool. Oh, it's also, like, not very blue, but that's fine. Lure of the Sea is a 2 mana enchantment. That's a great name for a blue enchantment. If you would draw a card, you may skip that draw instead. This card's awesome. I don't know if that's the appropriate, like, verbiage, because I don't think I've never seen this effect before. But, like, that's really cool. That's just... I've never seen this effect before. And for 2 mana, it's probably not, like... In most situations, this is not going to be relevant, right? Very, very, very rarely is it going to be matter unless you're, like, milling yourself really hard and you don't want to die. I mean, it protects against mill. Like, that's potentially very strong. If you just self-mill. If you have a deck that just puts your entire deck into your graveyard and then you have this on the field so that you don't die, I don't think this card would ever be playable, but it is a really cool, like, unique combo piece that could be used if you were, like, throwing it in Historic or something. I'm sure someone can come up with a cool combo for this deck. Somebody in comments, tell me what the coolest combo with this card is. This is rad. I'm keeping it. It's not good for limited, but it's just cool. I love that. Shadow of the Past is a shadow of the past is cast across the future. That's so true. Pardic Migration is a 1 mana instant with kicker of 3. Ooh, interesting. You may pay additional 3 as you cast the spell. Yeah, that's appropriate. Target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. If the spell was kicked, that creature gains flying until end of turn. Huh. 1 mana to give something +1/+0. It's probably fine. Like, you wouldn't be excited to do that, but maybe it gives you a favorable trade that you otherwise wouldn't have. Maybe it's enough for lethal. That's unlikely, but it, you know, obviously it's not great. It's like fire breathing on a card, but it only, like, you can only do it once, right? Like, it's not very good, but for 4 mana, it also gains flying until end of turn. I doubt this is good enough. Like, I bet if I checked Scryfall, which I'm not going to bother for this card, there's probably way more efficient ways of getting the same effect, like a jump effect, right? But it's got flexibility, kind of, ish. I like it. I think it's good. Many times have we passed this way. Few, very few, have returned. Aluvain. Tempest Watcher is a 2-mana 1/1 enchantment creature merfolk rogue with flying. Okay. When Tempest Watcher enters the battlefield, you may exile another target permanent you control. If you do, return Tempest Watcher to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. That seems stupid. What? I will say, I think it's a cool effect, right? You could have something that has, like, haste that you want to sort of dash out, and you'd rather actually be able to blink it every turn to protect it. So the cost of that is that you have to exile a permanent that you control. Still seems bad. If it flickered the permanent, that'd be really cool. A lone bird knows many storms. Probably true. Probably true. Weird card. Weird card. Interesting, like, if you're just trying to, like, riff on it to do your own custom design, it comes up with some really interesting things. I don't think we actually want that card, though, in our set. Sultai Spirit. Okay, Sultai is blue, green, black. Is that right? I think. 2-mana, 1/1, enchantment creature, nymph. Flying. When it dies, draw a card. For blue, draw a card. Okay, so I gotta ask myself, do I want to allow repeatable, a single blue to draw a card? This is something that I've seen the AI make so many times. It's always just stupid strong. I think I'm going to reroll it. I'm going to veto this one. Will it be the most broken thing we see? Not necessarily. But I've seen this effect a lot. It's never... Nah. I'm done with it. I've seen it too many times, and it's very stupid. The future is not hers to determine. She could only observe. Which is a shame, because I feel like we've... I think every nymph we've seen has been re-rolled. It's a shame. Seer's Eye is a 2-mana human shaman. Ooh. It's a 1/1. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may put a question mark counter on Seer's Eye. For 2 and tap, look at the top card of your library. You may put that card into your hand. So, the first line is irrelevant. Unless you put a question mark counter on Seer's Eye, the question mark counter doesn't do anything. But, for 2 and tap, you can put a card in your hand. So it's 2 and tap to draw a card. She shares what she sees with it all. I would like to say the 2 tap look at the top card you may put in your hand actually has more value than you might expect, because it's something that you can play with, like anything that cares about, like, playing a card off the top of your deck. You might prefer to leave it there because you know it's there. The scouting might actually be relevant, even though normally you would just want to put it into your hand. So that's kind of cool. Is this card playable? It's a 2-mana 1. I think it is. I think it's definitely playable. I'm going to leave it. She shares what she sees with all. Did I already read that? I might have. Fortify is a 2-mana sorcery. It has Fortify, generic into blue, which means generic and blue, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. It can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or creatures that share a color with it. Draw a card. I don't know if Fortify is a real effect. Like a real key, like ability word, keyword, whatever. I guess it would be a keyword. Either way, it's clearly a reminder text for a creature. I'm just gonna roll this. We're not gonna spend any more time on this. The sky is falling. but the gods have not yet realized it. Ooh, that's really good flavor text. Shame it's not canon. Mortuary Plunder is a 2-mana sorcery that says, as an additional cost to cast this spell, exile X creature cards from your graveyard. It also has Foretell for blue. During your turn, you may pay 2 and exile it. So, this card allows you to... so if you want to, for 2 mana, you can exile X cards from your graveyard. X is not defined. It does no other effect. Those are the souls of the Fae who are cremated in Grunwald. The vampire believe that the power of their magics has to be tempered with the ash of the Fae. Again, very cool lore. Not canon. Eternal Bonds is a 2-mana sorcery. For each creature you control, you may tap or untap target creature. Wait, what? Is that appropriately worded? Like, for each creature you control? I think that's correct. It sounds weird. It sounds like you can, like, you target a creature, and then for each creature you can tap or untap it, so it just goes... But I think that's wrong. I think that's actually saying for each creature you control, you may tap or untap a target creature, right? So you could either untap your whole board of creatures, or you could tap out your opponent. This card's actually cool. I like this card a lot, actually. You can tap down your opponent to swing in for the kill. You can untap your entire board to sort of give your board vigilance after you've attacked. Yeah, this card's rad. I love it. One must be vigilant against treachery in winter. Teysa. I don't know who Teysa is. Do I know who Teysa is? I don't recognize their name. Vidalcan Shake Rider. That's interesting. They're a 4-mana 3/3 legendary enchantment creature, Naga. Okay, weird. For 2 mana, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. For 2 mana, tap, exile target creature you control, and target non-land permanent you don't control. Return that card, both of the cards, that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I think we can do better. Catching words is like playing peekaboo. Eventually, you get the idea. I need to do another set where I just, like, take the first roll every time. Like, I do think that there's something special about always taking that first roll. Like, it's what allows you to have these ridiculous highs and ridiculous lows. Oh well, some other day. Here, we're trying to make a set. Karametra, God of Harvests, is a 4-mana 4/4 legendary enchantment creature god. Reminder text, blue can be paid with either blue or 2 colors of mana. So I do want to say, obviously that's incorrect reminder text, but that's a cool idea, right? Like, it's any 2 colors or blue. That's kind of rad, actually. I'm kind of into that as an idea. Darcy, that already exists. That's just 2 generic / blue. Oh. I mean, in this situation, it wouldn't, like, colorless wouldn't count, but no, yeah, you're right. That just already exists, which is probably what it's going for. Huh. 4-mana 4/4 creatures you control with haste is pretty good. I'm going to re-roll it anyway just because of the reminder text, but it's kind of a shame. Again, I think we can do better. All I have left is what I can grow, or what I can get others to grow for me. Alexa the Dragon Speaker. That's pretty cool. 4 mana, 2/4, flying, legendary enchantment creature spirit. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control a dragon, draw a card. There we go. Oh, that's so cool. I don't think we've seen any dragons yet, but there's cohesive flavor to this card. I think maybe all of our legendary enchantment creatures have either been gods or spirits, so like it's cool seeing more spirits. It's a 4 mana, 2/4 with flying. That's already kind of okay. Yeah. No, I love that. This is great. His powers allow him to conjure ice and snow from the heavens and tear the winter veil to reveal a battle lost and a world still torn. That's rad. No, it was worth rerolling. That's cool. Lunge/Valakut is an X blue. Ooh, we got an X card coming through. It's an instant. Lunge deals X damage to target creature, and you gain X life. So, first, this is a split card. The AI does not know how to make split cards. It'll still come up with names that are based on split cards sometimes, but it does not actually know how to render, like, it doesn't know how to make them, so here's what we've got. I usually just accept them as saying, like, yeah, it's Lunge. Valakut doesn't exist, but this is Lunge, so I'm going to just give that a pass. X blue to deal X damage to a creature and gain X life. That's probably fine. It's not super interesting. I think I'm going to reroll this one. It's an X card. X cards are special. I want to reroll them until we get something cool. Do not look at me like that. The Urborg Prowler is far deadlier now than it ever was. Mirrory of the Weatherlight. We had a different card about somebody of the Weatherlight. Was it also Mirrory? That would be weird. Hibernation Germination is such a good name. That's so funny. X blue instant. Destroy X target non-land permanent. Create X treasure tokens. Holy crap. What? So this is either... Wow. So for 3 mana, this is a murder, plus you get a treasure token in blue. For 4, it kills 2 things, and you get... That's so good. This is too good, and I'm gonna keep it because it's awesome, and I like it. And I like to play blue. It's also, this card's cool. This card's cool. Shut up. This card's cool. Byzantium isn't a new world. It's just not one we know. Is it cosmologist? You're so right. You're so right. It's not new. It's just not one that we know. It's just new to us. You're totally right. Stitched Spirit. That's a cool name. How is a spirit stitched? Spirit stitching. 2 mana, 2/2 for a creature. It taps... Oh, sorry. Tap. Stitched Spirit deals 1 damage to target creature. Boring, but a useful effect. Morph for a blue. You may cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3. Turn it face up anytime for its morph cost. So it's either a 2 mana 2/2 or a 3 mana 2/2 that you can then morph for 1 blue, which could potentially... There's like maybe some mind games. That's usually not going to be relevant, but there's maybe some mind games that can be relevant there. Cool. It's not like the most exciting card, but it's functional, it's cohesive, it's interesting. In life, they used cloth for patches, canvas for garments, and skin for the inner frame. Ew. What does that mean? Urza's Bauble. That's just a real card, right? Hey, it's Urza! Check it out! It's Urza! Urza's Bauble is a 3 mana instant. Return target creature to its owner's hand. I mean... Yeah, I mean, I'd run that in limited. It's boring, but yeah. Thaumaturgical Mastery turns tools into amulets. 1 moment to last a lifetime. Urza. So this is Urza's Bauble on Scryfall. It's a 0 mana artifact. Tap. Sacrifice Urza's Bauble. Look at a card at random in target player's hand. You draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Weird. What a weird card that is. Huh. Alright, so here's an example of the same effect. Arrester's Admonition. Admonition? Why is my brain having difficulty with this word? It's a 3-mana instant, return target creature to its own hand. But it has Addendum, which means if you cast the spell during your main phase, you also draw a card. So it is better. But it's not unreasonable to have a 3-mana return a creature to its owner's hand. It's boring that it doesn't have any other effects, but I guess that's fine, you know? Like, you gotta have the basic stuff to make the interesting things seem more interesting. Screw it. It's Urza's Bauble. That doesn't make any sense. Let's go. Let's try it again. We can do better. Sandstorm is a 3-mana instant exile target land. Create 2 2/2 white and blue elemental creature tokens. This is the first time land destructions come up in the set. So I have to decide, do I want to ban land destruction? I think sets in general are just better with banned land destruction, to be honest. This is already 3-mana create 2 2/2s, which is just already good. In addition, you exile target land? Like, that's a lot. I'm re-rolling this one. I haven't decided if I'm banning land destruction or not, but I'm re-rolling this. Some alchemists say a sudden sandstorm clears the sky for the sight of the undying snow god. Ah! Oh, that's so cool! Ah, dang it! Steam Coil Burst is a 3-mana instant. As an additional cost to cast the spell, sacrifice a creature. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Huh. That's a pretty strong effect. I think that's probably good, right? A Soul to Hold. Yeah, I mean, that seems good to me. Like, full board +1/+1 is strong. Is it 3-mana, a card from your hand, and sacrificing a creature strong? I'm not sure. Back to Scryfall. So here we can see Break of Day is a 2-mana instant. Creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, but also has Fateful Hour. So if you have 5 or less life, they also get indestructible, blah, blah, blah. There's also another 2-mana, Atarka's Command, which is choose 2, one of which is creatures you can get +1/+1 in green, reach until end of turn. So, again, strictly better, but it is rare. So, this is +1/+1 with a downside for 3-mana, where those were +1/+1 with an upside for 2-mana. Does that make this unplayable? I think it still doesn't. Like, I still think this is actually playable, even though it is far below the curve. So I'm going to keep it. Maybe I shouldn't, but honestly, we got to get through these cards. I can't spend too much time re-rolling. I say after I spent so much time re-rolling. Sorry about that. I'm going to try and pick up the pace. Ink Fathom Drone is a 2-mana Eldrazi drone. It's a 2/2 with flying. Whenever Ink Fathom Drone attacks, return target creature to its owner's hand. That's rad. Holy crap, that's good. I love it. The fate of all is at stake. There is no hope for escape, and yet I can taste it. That is busted, too. This is repeatable. Like, okay, I attack you with the Ink Fathom Drone, I bounce that to your hand. Cool, next turn you replay it, and then I just attack and I just do it every... Like, how do you beat that? Ah, that's good. That's really good. Dang. Deathly Hollow's God of the Dead is a legendary creature Sphinx. For 5 mana, you get a 3/5. As I mentioned in my previous video, because these are set mana costs, we're going to allow the mana cost to spill over. I normally don't like that, but we're going to allow it. Because it just seems like such a petty thing to reroll based off of. 5 mana for a 3/5 flyer. For 3 mana, Deathly Hallows God of the Dead deals 1 damage to any target. Do I hate this enough to reroll it? I think I do. I love Sphinxes. Know that life ends, death will come. The true heir is the unborn child. Deathly Hallows, God of the Dead. I didn't need to reroll that, but I felt it in my bones. Celestial Avenger is a 5 mana human... Ooh, Spell Shapers. I love Spell Shapers. Is a human Spell Shaper. It's a 4/4 with lifelink. It attacks each combat able, and if you spend question mark, you can tap target creature. Oops. His goal is the reclamation of his birthright, and I am his chosen vessel, Mog, Elvish Acolyte. Okay. Volakut Il Dorado is a 5 mana legendary creature god. They're a 4/4 with flash, with flying, and you may cast this spell anytime you could cast an instant. So it's a 5 mana 4/4 with flash and flying. Is this exciting enough? Do I need this to be better? It's a legendary creature. Like, it's not that this card's bad. Like, this is a card that I'm sure a lot of people would really like to play. 5 mana, 4/4 with flying and flash? That's great. The Masterwork token from a colony era, maddeningly complete in every detail. I just think we can do better. Is that wrong of me? Is that wrong of me? I need to know. Wadir, Geist of the Throne is a 5 mana 3/4 legendary creature human advisor. For blue, target opponent draws 2 cards. You gain 2 life. Oof. That is bad. Unless you can make it an upside. And like some decks can, right? Some decks can make that an upside. Where you want your opponent's hand to be full, but it's cool flavor-wise, right? It's an advisor. It's going to draw cards from your opponent. Whoever leads must obey. Whoever follows, follow. Raven Hunter is a 5 mana illusion. Legendary illusion. That's fun. It's a 2/4 with flying. Okay. Whenever you gain life, draw a card. Interesting. We haven't seen much life gain payoff. Like, there's been a little life gain in blue, but life gain payoff is not like a huge blue effect, so that's kind of interesting. 4 mana, create a 1/1 white soldier, creature token with flying. Mana sink for a 1, like 4 mana for a 1 with flying is not great, but as a mana sink, as a repeatable ability, then the flying really makes that way better than just a 1/1. I think this is the one. I don't think this is going to be everyone's like favorite that I just rolled through, but I think illusions are cool. Raven Hunter's a fun name for a... It doesn't feel that legendary, to be honest, but that's okay. The abominable frigid gales scour the flesh from their bodies and frost their teeth into icicles. What does it mean to be a legendary illusion? What does that mean? This card's cool, though. Like, it's got a lot of stuff going on. You could definitely build around this. Yeah, cool. I like it. Whew. Well, I think I'm going to call this my last card today. I will catch you in the next video, but I will leave you with Ravenous Chitterer, a 2 mana 1/1 dwarf with flying. For blue and sacrifice Ravenous Chitterer, counter target spell unless its controller pays 1 generic for each mana symbol in that spell's mana cost. Huh! That's cool. That's very cool, actually. Yeah, so it's a 2 mana 1/1 flyer that you know, you can use as a 1/1 flyer in the early game, and then you can spend blue as an onboard trick to counter something unless they pay, you know, X, and that X scales. It's usually going to be 1, which they can pay, but it could be higher if they're playing like a 2 symbol thing. And in this set, a lot of stuff have 2 symbols. It's not the most exciting thing, but it's an interesting design, and I'm interested in it, and I like it. The closest food source to their hovels can be found by the crow's very own appetite. Have a good night, everyone. I've been DarcyBits. This has been more Urza's AI with Gods of Winter, our winter block. Moving into next week, we are doing 3 videos a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, all releasing at 3 o'clock Eastern Time on my YouTube. Check that out. And subscribe and stuff, I guess. I don't know. I don't like asking for it, but I do like to have it happen. Have a good night, everyone. I'll catch you next time.